Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. No, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out, thanks and appreciation to Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Mike, Henrik86, Dick Earth Skeptic, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Liam Nedrick, Dank, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Tina Baker, Alexander Main, and David Wayne Foster. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'm going to raise the mic on G Plus and Discord. Hopefully there's a few people in there so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's actual live show.
Morning, Nathan.
Good morning, Paul.
I hear an echo.
You've got an echo?
Excellent.
I don't have an echo here. For your end.
Oh, I forgot I was in Discord. I fixed it.
It's a miracle.
Hardly.
Oh, it's a miracle.
What's a miracle, Neil?
I've been wandering around aimlessly for the last 5 days in this 2 hours. Well, I missed you, Nathan.
I missed the show. I had withdrawals, I'm not going to lie. I was twiddling my thumbs several nights when the Uncut and After show would normally be broadcast, and I'd be sat in the chat. So, same goes for 2 o'clock UK time last week. It's just been me chewing my thumbs off going, oh! I did go into 24/7 though, Neil, I'm sure you're pleased to hear.
Yeah, but I missed it.
I published it, so you can check it out.
Which show was that? Which one? I'll go back and listen.
Got Joe
What was
Rogan
it?
on the
Which one?
thumbnail because I didn't have access to the computer. I could have made a thumbnail, but I just wanted to do it as easily and as quickly as possible, and it just happened to select that as a thumbnail. I'm like, that's good enough.
Was that the evaporation one? Is that the one?
Yeah, it took me hours to just screen capture it because obviously their shows run for an eternity, so you can't just go in and download them. So I had to download some new software on the iPad and screen capture it. Not having a computer, you realise how much you rely on it. You're like, oh, I hardly use it. I use the iPad all the time. Yeah. No, you don't. You do need the computer. The iPad only gets you so far.
Oh, you published it, Nathan?
Yeah. Fortunately, the iPad Pro
Okay.
does actually let you operate as a computer, so you can go into YouTube properly, which you never used to be able to on the older iPads. You probably can't on the lesser iPads, but I can go in and use it as a laptop. In other words, I can do computery stuff from there, which is great. I can publish.
I gotta listen to it then.
Yeah, so I published a snipped out clip, and every day at 2 o'clock a show went out. Obviously, I'm not going to duplicate that on the second channel. That would be pointless. You know, it's one thing having the live show bit in the middle repeated, but you know, just flat out repeating it on the second channel just seems silly. So I just said, well, there's not going to be anything. I haven't got anything to put on the second channel, so there won't be anything going on the second channel. So that's just how it was. When things like this happen, you just have to prioritise what's most important, focusing on the main channel. Just slip off the algorithm if you take your foot off the gas for 2 seconds. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to slip out of the algorithm. Not that I'm really in it anyway. It's not like I'm getting recommended daily to loads of new people. Please share the show.
Already Bravo shout outs, and you will be.
Say that again, Neil. I was encouraging the audience to share when you were speaking.
I said a few more Eddie Bravo shout outs, and you will be.
Yeah, you're going to have to stop saying it though, because he does actually watch. And I don't want him to get the impression, knowing full well that he watches, that I'm somehow giving him a poke saying, where's my next shout out coming from? Because that's just so rude. You know, if it was me in his position, I'd be like, just say thank you. don't demand anything else from me, you cheeky sod. Just be grateful I've shouted you out, which I am.
I got you. I didn't look at it from that perspective.
It's so quickly that people go from, oh, it's so great that I've got a shout out to, you know, expectations. It's like, when someone does a favour for you without you in any way suggesting that you should have a favour done, they've just done it out of the goodness of their heart. Just say thank you and then move on. Don't expect anything else from them, because why the hell should they? You know, I'm nobody to Eddie Bravo. The fact that he shouted me out just deserves thanks. That's all it deserves, rather than when's my next shout out, which is what you're implying I should be saying, which I'm definitely not going to.
You got a good show, Nathan. Come on.
On 2 separate occasions, he's brought like 500 people to my channel. So, you know, 1,000 people just from Eddie Bravo shoutouts. I couldn't be more pleased, to be honest. Channel's getting ever closer to 19,000 subscribers. I think it's 18.7 thousand subscribers now.
Gonna have to throw a big party when you hit 20.
Yeah, well, obviously that's like a little mini goal, isn't it? In the back of your mind. Not that the subscriber count is that important, but it does make a difference to how many people are actually exposed to my videos. So when I first started, it's like, the subscriber count's not all that important. Because, you know, so long as you're in the algorithm, people will still get exposed to your video whether they're subscribed or not. It doesn't work like that anymore. So the subscriber counts become a lot more important, because that's how many people you're going to reach, basically. For us, for flat earthers. Anti-flat earthers, you know, I'm not subscribed to any of them, but yet I'm constantly bombarded with all of their videos in my homepage and so on. Recommended for you. Oh, really? Why isn't Mitchell from Australia being recommended to me? Why isn't Sleeping Warrior being recommended to me? Why isn't Roxanne the Globalist Denier being recommended to me? Why isn't Paul on the Plane being recommended to me? Why isn't Eric DeBay being recommended to me, or Math Powerland? Oh no, I'm obviously in the category that wants to watch Simon Dan. Like a bazillion other people who get exposed to him daily.
Yeah, that's true. I never looked at it like that. Why is that? Are they trying to turn us?
You can't get rid of both sides of the equation, right? You can't get rid of flat Earth and still have anti-flat Earth, because obviously that's going to appear very biased. So we're here to stay. That's that much I figured out a long time ago. Us, flat Earthers, and anti-flat Earthers. But that doesn't mean that you know, we can receive zero publicity if you want to look at it in that way, and our opponents can receive every bit of publicity they could ever require or want. You know, that's up to the owner of the platform, right? But I'm just, again, grateful for small mercies. We are here to stay, as far as I can tell. As long as we don't break any rules, we're here to stay.
Nathan, when did they change that? Where they started? Because when I first started listening to Flat Earth videos, I was recommended. They would just pop up and go right to the next one.
Not just recommended, they were on autoplay. My exposure was through autoplay and Math Powerland, and him playing in the background, and then me going, what's he talking about? And then sitting down and hearing him saying flat Earth, but not saying it like flat earthers are idiots, just talking about it, obviously without being ridiculing. And I was like, oh my God. And that wasn't even in me clicking on him. It just played where, literally just auto-played him.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But then they changed it, right, when they started monitoring Flat Earth and 9/11 nonsense, right?
I can't speak to that. I can only speak to the rule changes and the tramp stamps and the things that we actually know are occurring. I know I'm not appearing in the recommended feeds. Yeah? So I can speak to that. As for what they've actually done, which is what you're asking, I don't know. I'm not an employee of YouTube, so how would I know?
Well, I know, because that's how it happened to me. All of a sudden, no more Flat Earth autoplays. That's it. I get all of these Simon Dan and who's the other guy? Forgot his name, but I get that comes up as a suggested video. All baller stuff.
Yeah, sure. But they're the yang to our yin, aren't they? So at the end of the day, we have a kind of coexistence, and them being here means we're still here. In other words, if there weren't any big flat earth detractors, it would be far easier to just wipe us out. Whereas they're obviously under the same category. The fact that they're the opposing side of the argument just means that it only legitimizes the argument if you literally blanket wipe out one side of the argument. So that I don't think will ever happen. Hence me saying we're here to stay. But it doesn't mean, as I've said already, I'm just repeating myself, that we aren't capable of being subject to a degree of censorship. And that it's not even censorship, it's lack of exposure. So there's no prerogative, there's nothing in the terms that say they will recommend you or put you in the home feed or anything. They always describe it algorithmically, so how the algorithm might pick you up if you're doing well, etc., etc., is how they'd phrase it, so it all comes across as very automated. But obviously there's somebody somewhere punching keys and changing how that works. That's down to an individual. It just won't apply to you by way of somebody actually stroking their keyboard to stop you from having any publicity for the sake of argument. That I don't think is how it works. But where they say it's algorithmic, it's still somebody actually doing it though, right? So, for instance, the algorithm is going to say, this is a flat Earth video, therefore it needs the wiki entry about flat Earth as a model being archaic underneath, which actually I agree with. Models are pseudoscience, flat Earth or otherwise. Anyway, that will be part of the algorithm. It's not going to be somebody who's come along and gone, oh, this video needs a flat Earth tramp stamp. The algorithm does that. But at some stage, after Congress meetings and them saying, yes, the way we will address these flat Earth detractors is by putting something underneath them that says the Earth isn't flat. And that's precisely what YouTube did. But they'll have just replied that to the algorithm, which then in turn implies it to me and my videos, and to Simon Dan and his videos, meaning we're in the same category.
My wife said, you think the government shut them down?
Well, yeah, in theory. Yeah. But would they? As I've just said, it would look bad, let's put it that way. There'd be more than a few normie eyebrows raised if that was the case. And I think it'd be idiotic to do that, to just, as a carte blanche, wipe all flat Earth videos and... No, I just don't think that's going to happen. It's been, 5-6 years? How long have I been here? A long time. Doing this exact thing. And to be perfectly honest, I haven't suffered any censorship. I can't think of a single thing that I've had censored from YouTube. I can't give you a single example. Now, I would put that down to knowing the terms of service. I know it's not my platform. I know I'm not entitled to freedom of speech here. And there are rules that I must abide by in order to survive on this platform. Now, if you're capable of reading terms of service and just not ignoring them, or having somebody point out a term of service that you're in violation of and just going, I don't care, freedom of speech, man. No. If you have that attitude, you'll lose your channel and be moaning about censorship. But honestly, I can't think of an example. I would always, tiptoe around it and call it a lack of publicity rather than overt censorship, because I don't necessarily see it that way from my position. But then again, there are things that I self-censor on because I know that they're outside of the terms of service. I'll also, in some ways, censor people because I know that those things aren't tolerated. If you start messing with current mainstream media narratives, especially, it's just not allowed. You're not allowed to do it. Now, I don't have to specifically name any mainstream narratives to say that they're all magic tricks. And while the magic tricks are being cast, don't mess with it. That's basically the rule. I'm not going to send you to a term of service that says don't mess with media narratives. It's not like that. But that is essentially how it is. And there's plenty of people out there that have tried to mess with the magic that's going out in the mainstream news, and they don't last very long, do they? They get shut down.
I know a few.
Right. So, simple advice. Know the terms of service if you're going to use the platform. If you're going to abuse the terms of service, expect it to be dealt with swiftly and end in you losing your channel.
So basically follow the rules of YouTube.
Yeah, we're YouTube's bitches. That's the bottom line. They're in charge. It's their platform. And like it or lump it, basically.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Paul Hall, Arwin, and I don't know if 10th Man's there. I can never tell because he's got a black box. We're also joined by a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome, one and all.
Welcome back.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Yes.
Hello.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back.
It's good to be back.
Thank you. First and foremost, a massive shout out to everyone who supported me on PayPal and Patreon. Not Patreon, GoFundMe. Although Patreon as well. Absolutely. A lot of the people who supported me were from Patreon. Or Patreons, I should say. Brilliant. Really, really brilliant. I've been able to pay for a shed load of things to be fixed, sorted, and leaving me in a position where I've got a working computer sat next to me, and the show is running live. So I am absolutely elated. I've been chewing my thumbs off for the last week with withdrawal from No Flat Earth Debate. I don't know if anyone else is the same.
Yep, same here.
Yeah, a little. But
It's-
then
it-
again,
a
it
little.
was good to see the shows back. You picked a couple of really good ones, and it was very enjoyable to just watch them again.
Yeah, I took my time. Obviously, I had plenty of time on my hands, so I went through some of the members-only videos, and I was like, which ones are going to be actually good to keep people engaged? And I just picked out what I thought were the best ones, and rebroadcast them over the last week. So there was stuff out there. Typically, I was really busy trying to fix things and do things and run around like a headless chicken anyway, so I wasn't actually in a lot of the live chats. Well, I did occasionally. So there we go. Who's that that's super chatted? Let's have a little look. Oh no, where's my main page gone?
Michael Jones.
Thank you, Michael Jones, for the super sticker. Can't quite see from this distance what it is.
It's a Bravo Fox.
Bravo Fox. Okay. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Really do appreciate your support. Let's do some housekeeping. Unless anyone objects.
Ooh. Man, everything's become so dirty. Like 1 week not housekeeping. Oh my god, it's all a mess. Globers suddenly believe they've won. All that.
Hang on, we're going to do housekeeping. We're going to need to pull out the vacuum.
All right.
Right, let's do it. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve?
Not this Friday, and not since last Friday.
Yeah. It's still word soup.
You're a bit quiet, Arwin. I don't know if you can get a bit...
Oh.
Maybe
I said it's still just word soup.
Word soup, yeah. Shout soundly. Oh, another super chat. Let's just shout this out. Hold on 1 second. Shout out to Rob Wiggles. He says, welcome back. Thank you very much indeed. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, no Coriolis for these guys.
Yeah, the myth of terrestrial Coriolis.
Well, there is Coriolis, as demonstrated by the roundabout and other things that people can do, and it's easy to prove, but they can't do it with the Earth. So
Right.
it only means one thing, right, Arwen?
Yeah, there's no terrestrial Coriolis effect. Everything moves in lockstep with the Earth, even though none of it really makes any sense. Despite that it does, there are still people out there in the high priesthood that claim that you still have Coriolis effect, despite everything moving in lockstep with the supposed rotation. And that makes no damn sense.
So when you say lockstep, you're saying their position, correct?
Yes. Yeah, but
Okay.
nobody on the baller side claimed that the air is actually moving over the Earth, because they always started out defaulting that that's not happening.
Well, this is how silly it gets. When you have one lie, you have to come up with another lie, which is the air, the atmosphere, begging the question, is moving lockstep with the Earth. Well, everyone knows you got 4 different directions plus in between directions of wind. So that's another stupid statement, just like the first one, because there is no Earth-based Coriolis. So one lie makes the other one look even worse.
All right.
Yeah. Well put. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Hey, Chocolate.
No, no distance.
It's over
Hey,
there.
Taco.
Yo. So
Hey,
Hello.
morning, morning.
It's interesting,
Welcome back.
Chocolate. It's interesting. You come in right when Arwen comes in, when the sun question comes up, but you came in this time.
Did I really? Awesome.
Yeah.
What's up, bro? What's up, Nathan? How you doing over there, brother?
I'm very happy to be sat where I'm sat with a microphone in front of me, asking questions about scientific evidence of gravity and things of that nature. Speaking of which, any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, it's
Nah.
a reification fallacy.
What's gravity again?
A reification fallacy?
Well, they had pseudoscientific evidence of gravity until we pinned them to it, to the meaning of what real science and scientific method was. Now, they are saying science doesn't prove things. So again, another lie leads to another big change in the way they want to describe what science was. Before it was their friend, now it doesn't prove things.
the Theorypothesis made another video titled "Gravity is not a force."
Join the club. The list is getting longer.
Actually, watch it. He gave quite a lot of what should we call it? Just so stories about ether. Nevertheless, he did pull apart gravity in a reasonably good way, I thought. Kind of hinted that he knew gravity was a thing. And look, gravity is a thing, but it's not a force, and this is why. But it is kind of a thing, and then he doesn't give any explanation for why it is or what it is, but then details again how it isn't what they claim it is. You know, it's not mass attracting mass, it's not bending space-time, time isn't real, time's a concept, etc., etc. He's pulling it all apart. So, yeah, shout out to a Theorypothesis. Don't necessarily agree with his ether nonsense, but nevertheless, he knows gravity's not a force, which it isn't. And he's more than happy to talk about it.
Well, it has to be a thing, Nathan, because they're saying on these multiple discal mirror planes on the Earth, it's where it's keeping the oceans water to the ball as it's spinning and curving it. So how could it be doing all those things if it's not a thing?
Because you can think of it as a thing.
Good one,
Well,
Arwen.
I had one of the Globers over Discord since we've been off. I think since you've been off, Nathan was saying that basically everything's an effect, and an effect can create a cause or something along those lines. So there really is no causes; it's all just effects. I think that's pretty much what they're saying now.
Oh, bless the little pseudoscience defenders.
Well, it's technically a description of a process that is then being reified into this formula that sort of correlates, but not completely, only from a Newtonian mechanic perspective. So, yeah, it is just something that's out there that can be generalized as gravity, but it's not a singular thing, really. It's an aberration. It's just highly suggestive of being a singular thing.
It's kind of funny. Where was it? Newtonian principles break down in Einsteinian at Einsteinian levels with light speed and large bodies, but it all breaks down in quantum mechanics. Isn't that interesting?
What, the new hotness?
Yeah, the new hotness is quantum mechanics.
Love that people are using that. I love it.
Well, there's now the old and busted. That'd be Newton. And then just the old and busted, which is Einsteinian, pseudo-Riemannian force space. And then you've got the new hotness, quantum mechanics. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Nope.
Nope. There's
That's a negative.
You can't get that there.
Hello, Righteous. Hello, Nathan. Yeah, it's good to have you. Good to be back. Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you.
Hey, Nathan. Good to have you back.
Hey, Righteous.
Wow, so cheery this morning.
You okay? Everything pucker?
Oh, everything's great.
Excellent. Where were we? Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
It's
No.
so hot, it has to be there.
It's so hot. What, out here in the open air?
Well, they say that it loses its heat, right? Well, I feel a lot of heat, so
I think Arwen's just laying off. his steam.
yeah, I'm just being really lazy in
Fair
my
enough.
reasoning here.
Are you saying there's a direct correlation between the heat you're feeling and a molten iron core 4,000 miles under your feet?
Well, only based on what the geologists say happens over time, that it does lose its heat. Well, where is it going to lose it at? Well, to the surface. So, but Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the sun.
Someone yesterday on 24/7 said it too. They were like, "Oh yeah, PNS waves,"
Oh god, I still don't know what they are, but
and then he
Don't
showed
need
us
to.
a diagram.
Can somebody
It
explain
works
that to
better
me?
if you don't know what they are. Just stay right where you're at.
When it was said chocolate, was it said how you said it just now? Someone just blurted out, "Yeah, P waves and S waves." Full stop.
Basically, yeah. Except it came with like a little diagram with a presupposed sphere and like lines over it, waves and stuff. So it came with a diagram, but yeah, it was basically PNS waves.
Oh, it wouldn't.
That's how we know.
It wouldn't be a perfect globehead example if it didn't come with a cartoon of how they beg the question.
Exactly.
That could be somebody's old EKG reading. You really got to check out those waves.
Yeah, EKG. No,
reading?
something very different.
EKG is electrocardiogram.
Yeah, we're talking
Oh,
about
right.
P waves
They
and S
claim
waves.
it's-
Like about Ghostbuster detectors or something.
No,
like that.
that's what they do. They put a chart up with these waves and these numbers on grids, and they show these squiggly lines and say, "Yeah, PNS waves right there."
The proton
Yeah,
packs
that's an
are far
EKG.
more reliable than P waves and S waves.
And if gravity was a thing, they would be able to make one of those little EKG meters, like they call it in Ghostbusters. And you could just walk around and look at all the gravity here.
Yeah, gravometer.
Gravimeter, yeah, there you go.
There's a new word called planisphere.
Planisphere?
Thanks to Dallas Dave, the retard.
Yeah, I heard you
Double
on
D.
24/7 today.
Double D's back on the scene.
Every time I hear him talking,
Asserting
he's
that-
just... I told him off once, and afterwards I felt very guilty. But looking back on it, he just comes up with total nonsense. He's still claiming that as you raise in altitude, the variation in heat is what's going to cause your gas pressure. It's like, oh, God.
Yeah, temperature's a force.
Temperature's a force, right.
What?
It must be. It's got Arwen sweating.
Yeah. Did you catch my my post? What Nick said? I know Nick's a nobody, but he said that Boyle's law does not apply to the universe
I did,
or
Owen, I
the
did.
Earth.
I did see you
How about that?
mention that, yes.
And he
Boyle's law
doubled
doesn't
down on
apply.
it immediately.
Well, it doesn't apply because they've got a fundamentalist sphere Earth belief that doesn't have containment. So if you have any laws like Boyle's law, which is intrinsically involving containers, then they're going to say it doesn't apply. Well, no, it just doesn't apply to your model of Earth.
Yeah.
So instead of proving their claims, what they're going to do now is just discard all the laws that exist. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're
Just
breaking
claim
the
they-
law.
Just claim they don't apply to the Earth. And by that, what they mean is their reified version of a sphere Earth in a vacuum hasn't got any natural laws applied to it. You might as well say, our world can't be real. But that's what they say.
Very few of the natural laws apply to the actual real world we have here compared to the globe, hey?
No, all natural laws apply, or there wouldn't be laws. There wouldn't
Exactly.
be laws anymore.
Except Boyle's law, because it doesn't apply to the Earth or the outer universe. You know, that makes it even worse than entropy, because that only doesn't apply to the Earth. Apparently.
Yeah, it does.
According to M. Scott Veach, gravity is the container. That's all that's needed.
Last time it was force equals container, didn't it? With M. Scott Beach.
Oh, God. Really?
Yeah, force equals
He did
WC,
concrete.
walls of container.
Yeah.
Hey, if gravity's the container, how come there's so many unboxing YouTube videos?
Don't need a container to ship things on Amazon.
And the other thing is the
The container law doesn't
Cabin
apply
Dish
to
says-
international shipping.
Oh,
what I heard
gosh.
was if you haven't read Cavendish's entire paper, then nobody should speak on it.
All right.
What? I'd have to read all of it?
That's what they said.
It's just a bunch of reified mathematical nonsense. Like, what's it
Just
supposed to
telling you
do
what they were
anyway?
saying.
Weigh the Earth through calculation. That's already a contradiction in terms.
But that's not
Weighing
gonna...
is a physical action. Calculation is not a physical action.
Good point.
That's what the paper says. What's the claim being made? That we have mass attracting mass, and in scientific terminology, their formulated hypothesis has the cause and effect the same. If mass, then mass attracts mass. It's absolutely preposterous when you consider that you can't define mass. They use an equivocation. They'll describe it as both inertia and mole. Yeah, it's a cluster.
Well, logical fallacy is better than nothing.
Tim Osmond.
Really? Is it?
That's what Tim Osmond says. Look, if you can't prove your worldview, begging the question's better than nothing.
That's the other thing Dallas Dave said. Mass does attract mass. If you throw a rock up, it comes back down because Earth is the greater mass.
All right, and if I throw a helium balloon up, it'll come back down, will it?
No, it keeps going and going and going.
You move on. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container?
Absolutely
None.
not.
So after the balloon pops, when it goes all the way up, it's accelerated up, and then it pops. Where does that gas go? Does it fall down and go boom, boom?
Yes.
It's party time at the Carmen line.
Because the rubber was
I think it
holding
might
it
just
up.
disperse, yeah?
Yeah, it disperses. Fills the availability of volume it has to fill. Occupies all available microstates.
That'd be gas law.
Right. But that doesn't apply to the globe Earth, because globe Earth is a violation of things that are natural, because they have a vacuum for a sky. Obviously, we don't.
This
really
is what I
have that.
mean. The natural laws are very different to what they are on the Earth we have in front of us, are they not?
Oh, that's what you meant with your last comment. Yes, precisely. Yeah, the natural laws that we experience in nature, they're not the same as the laws in a globe Earth, because that's just a reification fallacy. So those laws don't need to apply to a reified model, because we don't live on it.
Well, if they don't
flat.
match the globe, then they can't be, surely, because it is a globe, as R is already assumed.
Oh, well, like I say, if you haven't got an argument, begging the question's better than nothing.
I actually had a little question for your boys after housekeeping, if that's all right.
I think we're done, aren't we? I think that's the last housekeeping question. R, any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
No evidence. Go ahead.
Feel free, my friend.
Nice. Thank you very much. So I've been having it out with an old friend who's obviously a globie. I've been on the flat earth for about a year. You boys sort of convinced me between episodes 600 and 900, so nice one for that, like big respect. But so I've been looking into the earth curve calculator, and I used to do a lot of my approximations on 8 inches per mile square, though I've over the past few months realized that doesn't conform to a full globe. Am I correct in saying that?
Close enough over the first quarter of a globe, according to their begging the question fallacy model. But no, it's not 100% accurate. You're right.
So over 1,000 miles, I've calculated there's about 2 miles differentiation from where it should be to where the globe says it is.
Yeah, at that distance, it's exponentially going to get worse as well. But you've only got to ask a couple of globe heads, and they'll say 8 inches per mile squared is correct.
I agree. Well, I've been having it out with an old friend. He's got lots of different contradictory maths coming. And I just wanted to ask, is it accurate over 10 miles?
According to them, yes. No, because you'd have to turn your world side on and see your own head in the mathematics that they apply for this to apply. But yes, according to them, it's accurate at 10 miles.
That's what I've made the mistake of doing. I've bit the hook I have, and I've been swamped in by the globe mathematics, which I know don't make any sense and don't take into angular differentiation over distance and whatnot. But it is roughly that if we're 10 miles away and we're both 6 foot up, the law of where the geometric horizon has to be would still block the view from the other person, would it not?
According to their geometry, yes.
Excellent. Nice one, boys. Big respect. That's just all I really wanted to know.
That's it.
Well,
Perfect.
there's got to be that hump in the middle, right? If it's a curved arc and you're on one side and you're on the ball and your buddy's on the other side, miles away, based on their geometry, their radius, 8 inches per mile square, you're not going to be able to see them because of that hump or the curve.
Yeah, of course, unless they claim that a holographic superlume projection is actually real, of course.
That'd be based on R, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, exactly, which is unproven. I just wanted to make sure, boys, because I was looking at some of the maths and one of my friends called me out that it wasn't exact, and I did realize it wasn't exact. I got that from Wakey, and I've since looked at the trig, which Wakey's given me, and I've, it is a little bit different, but it's still very verifiable that over 10 miles, the obstruction of the hump to the curve would geometrically create a horizon between two viewer points.
Yeah, these small distances, you're not going to get any wiggle room beyond the 8 inches per mile squared. But because it's a squared function, as soon as you go beyond, say, you looked at it at 1,000 miles, you can see how squarely it gets at those greater distances. But no, up to, say, I don't know, to be very, very accurate according to their reification fallacy, you could say 100 miles. It wouldn't give you any wiggle room if you used, half a decimal point here or there. Either way, it's not going to make any difference at those short distances.
Mm. I mean, what I said is that it wouldn't make a difference if it was only an inch of curvature over the whole thing, because then these technically couldn't be on the same level. I'm just a bit swamped in with globe head thinking is all, which is why I'm asking such basic questions.
Not basic at all. It's convoluted.
The refraction argument.
Go on, 10th.
Yeah, the refraction argument is dead too, and this is their own numbers, not ours, because we don't believe any of what they say anyway. But the refraction argument is somehow applied to Al-Biruni, because all he did was see a refracted horizon, right? The apparent horizon. He didn't see a geometric horizon. And they said, well, even though he didn't see the geometric horizon, which is what he's claimed to have seen, he came within 5% of it. So even with their refraction and their 5%, you're still not going to have superlumin, because Andrew Thomas Young says the refraction is 1.22 and 1.32 miles compared to 1.22 to the geometric horizon. So that would put it out, instead of 1.22 miles, it would be 3.47 miles out in the Black Swan picture. So that's still well in front of the first oil platform. So no matter which way they go, refraction, superlumin, it doesn't work.
And also lots of lasers which have been connected to mirrors and so on and so forth couldn't actually meet each other over such a long distance, could they not? Because even if you count refraction, what you're technically receiving is a hologram, which may be relevant to a laser, but to a ballistic missile is absolutely not. The ballistic missile would hit the target, whatever they say about refraction.
Right, line of sight. Yeah. So
exactly.
Dr. John D is about to do a video. I'm not going to expose too much because I'll ruin the surprise. But there's a certain aspect of line of sight which he's going to be covering in his most recent video, which it's not linked to the Black Swan, although it is, because it's directly in regards to the physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, and what that gives you and does not give you in terms of line of sight. Now, I've got to be honest, when he explained this to me, I was like, no, I don't like it. And I started arguing against it because he's also put the position that the globe side of the argument might come back with. Again, hopefully I'm not putting any spoilers in this. But when he put it across, it was so good, I started arguing with him. Because his sort of attempt at going, well, this is how you could rebut it if you were a glober, once I've pointed out this aspect of line of sight, which may or may not be acquired without putting any spoilers out. But I even said to him, I said, I bet you anything a glober will pick up your attempt to show how you could refute it, but obviously it wouldn't stack up with the images. Someone will use that. And he was like, no, they won't. I'm giving it for the flat earthers, so they understand that if someone was to try and refute this is what they'd have to say. I'm like, yeah, but someone from the globe side will actually say it. You watch, mark my words, I bet you £1, they'll say it. And he's like, no, because I've debunked it. You've only got to show a picture. Anyway, I'm giving out information without giving out the actual information, so this is kind of seeming nonsensical. I'll shut up. But Dr. John D, you need to watch this space. I'll mirror the video if you'll allow me.
Nice one, I'll check that out.
It's coming out soon. It's going to be
amazing.
out in the next few days. I think he's got Paul on the plane narrating it for him.
Well, it really is the art of double think, isn't it? That really everything that can be said about the globe, even though it contradicts other information that lots of globers give, is said really to create this mad, disparate swarm and swabble of information, which is very hard to decipher through, and it all constitutes a very complex mathematics, which aren't actually tangible in the real world.
Correct. Spot
It's
on.
all filler.
Coriolis is the perfect example. Earth needs Coriolis effect to prove it's spinning. The apparent deflection observed from the ground, which is Coriolis effect, from the ground being a claim to be spinning ground with stuff that leaves it drifting away from you, or seeming to because you're claimed to be spinning underneath it. That's Coriolis claim on a globe Earth that spins. Now when you get into argument about how you don't see that effect, you'll have a load of mathematics thrown in your face about conservation of momentum, angular or linear, and they'll explain how Earth is assumed to be spinning, and atmosphere is assumed to be spinning with it, and anything that leaves is assumed to follow along with the spin of the Earth. Not Coriolis effect. In other words, the doublespeak is that they assert, in their rhetoric, we've got Coriolis effect on Earth. Coriolis effect is something you can observe from a roundabout. If you throw something off it, it'll look like it curves away from you, when in reality, you're spinning underneath something that's travelling in a straight line. That's Coriolis effect. Well, Earth's claimed to have that effect. But when you point out it hasn't, nothing's drifting away from you. Drones don't drift away at 15 degrees an hour, as is claimed. Planes aren't having Earth turn underneath them 15 degrees an hour, shortening their flight times, as is claimed, to prove Earth spins. When you point that out, they start talking about a completely different subject that isn't Coriolis, conservation and momentum, and just beg the question. Just assume Earth's spinning with their example. Well, Earth's spinning in the example, and the atmosphere's spinning with it. Well, that's not Coriolis effect. Who cares? Let's argue about this while I beg the question that Earth's spinning and defy the claim that we've got proof of it in the form of Coriolis. So they're literally, as you put it, double speak their way around the fact they haven't got a claim proof of Earth spinning in Coriolis by saying, we haven't got it. It's all tracking together.
I find it so funny because they actually back up our claim to back their claim up. We point out they have no correlations, and then they give us some reason why we can't observe the correlations we're meant to be seeing. Like it backs up their point of correlations.
Coriolis.
Yeah, it's not
correlations. Sorry.
Close enough. Close enough.
Coriolis.
Correlations. It's the
stop
it's
it.
the
Everyone
disease
stop it.
that makes
I wish I
you
hadn't done
think that correlation is as good as causation. That's corolosis.
well dragged. The bottom line is you're correct. They're supposed to have it. They don't. So they argue for why they haven't got it or shouldn't have it. It's like, well, you're supposed to be arguing for having Coriolis effect on a claim to be spinning Earth, and all you're doing is defending why we don't see that effect, why we don't see planes with different flight times, why we don't see them taking a curved trajectory, why drones don't drift away from us at 15 degrees an hour, and justify that with an assumption that Earth's spinning automatically, because then you've obviously got the claim Earth's spinning in the argument, which is all they really need to beg the question. But the claim is Coriolis deviation, and we don't have
use
it.
To back their claim up even further.
Even further, what? Sorry.
It's in to go further to explain why we don't have it. They say that somehow proves the Earth spin with a lot of globers out there. The fact they don't have it, and they say that the reason that they give that they don't have this phenomenon is because X, Y, and Z, and they act like that backs up the spin of the Earth. And of course, it does the opposite and supports our argument. That is that it doesn't spin anywhere and there's no deviation.
Yeah, exactly. I had Time and Dan send me a video clip of a trampolinist being dragged along by a tractor, and he's just bouncing up and down even though the tractor's being dragged along. His point being, look, no drift. Oh, so we're not experiencing, or that like the trampoline, Earth isn't demonstrating 15 degrees an hour deviation then. Like the trampoliner, he's not drifting. He's going straight back to the trampoline and bouncing up and down again, even though it's being dragged along. So they're claiming no 15 degrees an hour drift. These morons that come here and argue for conservation of momentum, they're arguing against having the 15 degrees an hour deviation that's supposed to be proving it spins. So what, the trampoline guy hasn't got the tractor drifting away underneath as he bounces in the air? So not analogous to a 15 degree an hour drift proving we spin? It's not drifting, you morons? You need that to prove it spins. That's Coriolis deviation. 15 degrees an hour? All you commenters that come underneath my videos saying, Bob proved the Earth spins 15 degrees an hour. Yeah, that's 15 degrees an hour of Earth rotating underneath stuff like drones, helicopters, bullets, footballs, aeroplanes. But if it's turning underneath an aeroplane, it shortens the flight time when going west. And if it's turning under a drone, you watch your drone drift away from you at 15 degrees an hour. That doesn't happen. So what do? Tell you that the Earth and atmosphere are going along together. No, they're not. We've got multiple direction surface winds. That's absolutely absurd. But it's a way of begging the question that we're spinning. I assume we're spinning, and I assume the atmosphere's spinning too. In defiance of the claim proof that we've got an Earth that spins with Coriolis deviation, which we haven't got.
Nicely put. Do you mind if I ask one more question about I don't dare say it now, you've corrected me, but about the C word.
That's okay, go ahead.
So basically, obviously you boys have been doing this for a long time. I've got a few old friends. I'm trying to get them on the flat Earth. You can imagine the pain and trauma going on with that. But I've just they're all telling me that snipers don't claim that the Coriolis effect is. But I'm certain I've heard Quantum in a past number video that I've not heard that they actually use it in the military manual of American snipers, even though it's never tangibly used in the physical world of sniping. I just wondered if you boys, any of you knew that, if it is actually putting in the manuscript of their scriptures.
That's correct. And when I've heard it put to Quantum Eraser, I've not worked in the military, I don't know. But according to him, his response to that was, ask anybody who's actually in service when they last looked at the field manual, and the answer will be never. Because they go out and they do it practically. They just go out and learn how to do it as opposed to look it up in a manual. Now, that doesn't change the fact that it might be there in the manual, but I would ultimately use that claim. And I used typically the pendulum because it's the most simple to conceptualize. But if you want to use the bullet, it's the same. Okay, just accept it at face value. Mr. Globehead says, bullet is fired and Earth rotates underneath at 15 degrees an hour. That means the guy firing the bullet needs to account for the fact that Earth rotates underneath the bullet at 15 degrees an hour. Meaning he's got to compensate for it, right? That's their claim. So if you accept at face value, for the sake of argument, whatever, that Earth rotated underneath the bullet at 15 degrees an hour, then Earth rotates under a drone and a helicopter and a hot air balloon and an aeroplane at 15 degrees an hour also. Once the plane leaves the tarmac, like the bullet leaves the barrel, it's got Earth turning under it at 15 degrees an hour? Well, that would shorten the flight time when it's travelling west. Exampled by Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles. 4.5 hour actual flight time would take an hour and a half if Earth was turning underneath about 800 miles an hour at that particular latitude. Well, it doesn't shorten the flight times. So if you want to accept at face value that snipers are accounting for 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth rotates under a bullet, then it's also got to rotate underneath everything else at 15 degrees an hour, precisely as is claimed. And when they say, no, the engines... No, that's not Coriolis effect anymore. So suddenly when it's something that's not a bullet, as per your example, something with a longer hang time, like a drone, suddenly we don't have the effect. Earth and atmosphere travelling as one. Well, wouldn't that stop the bullet deviating, with you begging the question that Earth spins with atmosphere travelling with it, even though we've got multiple directions of surface winds, annihilating that claim? But ultimately, if they are assumed to be travelling as one, you wouldn't get the deflection in the bullet for him to have to account for. So it's a cluster screw. But if you want to use it, use it that the Earth's turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour and point out that doesn't happen to a drone or plane.
You could also just ask for someone to aim with a sniper to aim for A and hit B, which is equally ludicrous, really.
Yeah, that's a nice tie-in. Everything they're looking at on the globe Earth is a hologram anyway. Everything's affected by refraction. Everything's bending at standard rates around a spherical surface. Nothing's lining up straight. That's what demolishes their geometry. Essentially, nothing's where it's supposed to be on a globe. Everything's affected by bent light. Therefore, you've got no tangent points anymore for your geometry. This is why Alberoni's getting a proper pasting. Oh, right, everything's bending into my light around curves, is it? Standard. Where'd you get a straight line tangent from, then? How'd you derive your geometry? How do you assert that you've got a straight line to a physical obstruction of things in the distance? You can't. Bye-bye, globe Earth. The model's untenable.
The just done the 0 foot across sea level, really, aren't they? Because level by definition and altitude by definition cannot be matched across even 100 to 1,000 miles apart on any ocean there is, or canal or river system.
Yeah, it's back to that straight line that you would need. A line of sight. We mentioned this earlier. I'll button my mouth because I'm going to ruin Dr. John D's video. I'll shut up. Shout out to Good Servant. Thank you very much for the smiley emoji with the googly eyes.
Nathan, have you seen Brandon Toy's of his last few videos on the Coriolis topic and airplanes?
I have not. I've been recommended a lot of Simon Dan and Professor Dave and Becky videos, but surprisingly, the single thing I would be interested in seeing, and I'm subscribed to, no, I've not. Shocker.
I would check it out when you get a chance. It's really good. It's one of the best videos on the topic. So obviously he takes all of the arguments that you and John and others make on this show and other shows like this, and he condenses it into a video. He explains very, very clearly, the concept of an airplane flying over what would be a spinning ball and the consequences of flying over what would be a spinning ball. And he just asks a couple questions about, how this would work and why don't we see these impacts on airplanes, etc. So I'll leave it at that. I can go into more detail if you want, but I'll leave it there for your viewing pleasure.
We'll have to check it out. Big shout out to Retro Bill. He says, "Woohoo! Flat Earth debate is back. It's easier to be separated from my wife for 4 days than it is without the show. Sorry, dear."
I'm actually in a debate right now.
Still reruns, though.
Go on, Chris.
I was just gonna say I'm in a debate. I posted on one of Brandon's videos, and Wolfie posted, and then I posted a reply to Wolfie. So I'm in about a 4 to 5 message deep back and forth with Wolfie on why airplanes don't experience Coriolis and why that is. And he's just giving me the classic 5-year-old ball answers.
Sounds like he doesn't even know what Coriolis is.
Let me guess, the 5-year-old baller answer is to assume Earth's spinning, assume atmosphere travels along and everything tracks with it in defiance of Coriolis. Am I correct?
Yes. Because I've asked, so one of the questions that I've been posing lately to all these people is let's just grant that somehow magically, right, the atmosphere keeps airplanes and drones and helicopters in a near perfect lockstep 1-to-1, which is what they tell us, right? I mean, like how else would it work to say move a hovering helicopter along with the Earth at the same time? So let's say it's in lockstep 1-to-1. The problem with that theory, well, there's many problems. One of the big problems that I've discovered is the air density at different altitudes, right? They love to push us and say, all right, why is there a gradient? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm using that gradient against them and saying, if there's a gradient, okay, I agree there is. If the gradient is, so let's say at 15, I did the calculation, at 15,000 feet, air density is 4 times greater than at 40,000 feet. So if you have an airplane flying due north from the equator at 15,000 feet, and one flying due north from the equator at 40,000 feet, the effects of that supposed lockstep air is going to be 75% less on the airplane at 40,000 feet, because simply due to the air density, right? Because there's less air molecules supposedly pressing against the plane. Therefore, the higher plane must take a different flight path.
Yeah, spot on. In their paradigm. But it's also a first law of thermodynamics violation, you realise.
How so?
Okay, if you imagine, 24,900 miles circumference. If you take off, and get higher on that ball, your effective circumference is increased, correct?
Correct.
That would mean that to track with the speed of the ball that's below you, you'd have to take an increased speed to track with the ground below you. As you go higher, the effective circumference that you track gets bigger and bigger and bigger, meaning that you would have to input more energy into the item tracking with the claimed tracking item below. So it's actually a first law of thermodynamics violation for it to be capable of hovering, because you go up off the ground and you've got to increase velocity to track with the ground that's tracking below you. It's also absurd on the basis that gas, number one, we've already covered, you've got multiple directions of surface winds. No, it's not tracking along with Earth. Number two, gas is unbonded. So, what? Bonded to Earth? Travelling along because it's velcroed to the Earth? That's not how gas behaves. Gas is fundamentally unbonded. So it's not tracking with anything. It's unbonded. Last but by no means least, Chris. If, in your example, what I've forgotten the projectile in your example, what was it you were discussing in your comments? What was the item that's being viewed?
Sorry, which part? Airplane flying at different altitudes?
Aeroplanes, sorry. So, in terms of this example that you're arguing about, the actual claim is Coriolis Effect. And the claim of Coriolis Effect is you on the ground, observing the plane, seem to drift. But what you're arguing about is the projectile and what it does, regardless of anybody watching it seem to drift or not. And any Coriolis argument is very tied specifically to the observation from a spinning reference frame. So you've got to see something drift because you're spinning on a roundabout. Yeah? Now that drift could be a lamppost in the ground, you're just spinning underneath it and it looks like it's curving away from you and then coming back again as you spin underneath it. Well, that is the observation of Coriolis. If I start detailing what the lamppost is doing in terms of its velocity, things concreted into the ground, remember, it's got nothing to do with Coriolis Effect, because Coriolis Effect is merely the observation on a spinning platform. So the moment you start arguing for things that are travelling together spinning, well then that's not an observation of something not spinning with you spinning, observing it. That's Coriolis. So as soon as they say, well, the plane's retaining velocity, oh, that's fascinating. And from the ground, I'll see it seem to drift, right? Because I'm spinning underneath it, right? That's Coriolis. No, it's retaining velocity. I don't care what it's doing in the air. Coriolis is purely me observing it, and what I see in that observation is going to be apparent deflection at 15 degrees an hour, because I'm spinning underneath it at 15 degrees an hour. But Coriolis is definitely just me observing it. Not what the plane's doing. Retaining velocity, who cares? I'm watching it seem to drift. Watching it. Watching the plane. But the Coriolis is the bit where I'm viewing it. Not the plane, it could be doing loop-de-loops. As long as I'm sat rotating underneath it and going, that plane doing loop-de-loops seems to be drifting away from me while it's doing loop-de-loops at 15 degrees an hour, as I observe it to get Coriolis Effect. So, yeah, unless it's an observation, it ain't Coriolis Effect. If it's what the plane's doing or the bullet's doing, well, who cares what the bullet's doing? It's what you observe of the bullet as you spin underneath it.
I have a question.
Go.
Coriolis is an observation, you say?
Yeah, only ever an observation.
So, can a projectile make an observation?
No. Anything that's happening in the inertial reference frame isn't you observing it from the non-inertial claim to be spinning reference frame in the case of Earth, or a roundabout in the case of actual Coriolis. The Coriolis bit isn't the ball and what it does for retaining velocity, shedding velocity, increasing speed, decreasing speed. No, nothing to do with you observing it seem to drift. When it's not really drifting. It's the you observing the not actual drift. That's Coriolis. But it's definitely just you observing it. Not what the ball does. What you observe the ball seem to do. Because you're turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour if the roundabout's moving at 15 degrees an hour. And that's coincidentally what they claim Earth is doing. We just don't see anything ever drift. Because we're never turning underneath anything at 15 degrees an hour.
It's absurd. just is. I mean, like you said earlier, Nathan, so I'm just really repeating what you said, but it's a very good point, and that's to argue that the Earth is spinning and moving, they have to argue that it appears as if it's stationary and as if it works as if it's stationary, that the atmosphere magically pushes things along, even though there's an atmospheric gradient, which would have different pressures at different altitudes. That's why planes fly high, right? Like, why do planes fly high? The fundamental question, the reason is because there's less drag, there's less force on the airplane. It's common sense. So to say that the atmosphere somehow pushes the same airplane, same distance at the same time at 40,000 feet as it does at 10 or 15,000 feet is absurd. It physically wouldn't work. It's a physical debunk of their claim that the atmosphere is the cause for why we don't see deviation.
But we're supposed to see deviation. That's the bit that's supposed to be proving Earth spinning. We just end up, as we started this show out, talking about exactly that. With a claim that we've got to prove Earth spinning at 15 degrees an hour underneath of the stuff. That's the claim. But then you get into an argument about why we don't see deviation, which is the argument you're in. You're arguing about why we don't see the things claimed to be proving it's spinning. They just assume it's spinning. Well, I assume it's spinning, and Earth's spinning with the atmosphere, and that moves everything along like the plane, so we don't see 15 degrees an hour drift. What? Don't see 15 degrees an hour? What? Isn't that the bit that you're supposed to be proving? Hello?
Nathan, if you wanna read something funny, I found a funny article. I took a snippet out of a funny article I found speaking about how the higher you get, how the atmosphere is rotating with the Earth. It's in Ballbusters if you want to show it real quick.
It's on screen for the audience if you want to read it out.
Yeah. It's bound to the Earth by gravity. Most of the atmosphere spins along with it as a result of friction with the ground and viscosity or stickiness of the different layers of air above it. Above 200 kilometers, however, the incredibly thin atmosphere actually spins faster than the Earth. The cause of this bizarre super rotation effect remains unclear, but has also been detected on Venus.
So that's where I said that's the first law of thermodynamics violation. So essentially, the velocity of these winds, which travel in all directions but are here claimed to rotate at the speed of Earth, yeah, those winds would have to increase velocity, gain energy. No. The first law of thermodynamics violation, I'm afraid. No, that's not happening. But that's what they need because their spinning bullshit Earth doesn't work. It's total nonsense. We don't see what they'd need, which is Coriolis Effect. So that's their ultimate claim. We have Coriolis Effect because we're spinning. So we're going to see things drift at 15 degrees an hour. Will we? Well, what about this plane? No. The reason we don't see 15 degrees an hour deviation in a plane... What do you mean, if the reason we don't? You've just claimed that's what proves we spin. That's what the argument essentially is made up of.
That's all of their arguments. That's the curvature argument. That's the motion argument. It's all their arguments. They argue for things that are supposed to be there, but they tell us why we don't see these things that are supposed to be there.
That's because, Chocolate, that's because they argue for a sphere model. And they're arguing while on a obviously observable, motionless, flat plane. So they're living on a flat plane, not counting hills and valleys, and it's motionless, but their model is not flat, it's a sphere, and it's got motion. Since they can't observe it, they can't feel it, they can't see it, they argue for a model. That's why it's reification. It's not even real. It's all made up. These people need to wake up.
Can't see it, they can't feel it, but they can assume it. So when you can't demonstrate in physical reality a 15 degrees an hour deviation of the Earth rotating underneath because it's spinning, the answer to that is to just assume it's spinning. I assume Earth's spinning. And I assume atmosphere's travelling with Earth velcroed to it because it's sticky. Sticky, implying it's sticking. No, gas is unbonded, not stuck, not sticking to anything. You don't have to wipe your walls to get the gas off them. It's not sticking to anything. It's not sticking to itself. It's unbonded. But they have to tell themselves, in violation of the actual behaviour of gas, that the stuff's velcroed to the earth that spins because they've assumed it spins. Why have they had to assume it spins? Because they couldn't prove it. If it was spinning, you'd have 15 degrees an hour deviation. And you don't.
What about the star rotation nonsense? There was this guy in Discord claiming that the star rotations in the north and south prove that it only works on a sphere and not a flat earth.
Okay, well, how does it work on a sphere according to them? So when someone says that, a bit like P waves and S waves, how does star rotation prove we're on a spinning Earth? And just wait for them to affirm the consequent.
Did you hear how he got destroyed with that? All you had to ask him was, what direction do the stars, the sun, the moon, what direction do they all spin? And he agreed it was east to west. Well, there you go. I don't see how this is even an argument.
Yeah, that guy's annoying though. But it was cutting in and out, so I couldn't catch everything.
They use it by affirming the consequence. So I'll explain what they will use if you were to push them into actually formulating it into an argument rather than just doing what they usually do, which is blurting out, star rotation proves we're on a sphere. Okay, what does it actually entail when you claim it as proof? Well, they would tell you that if the Earth is a sphere, that's begging the question, then I will observe north and south, hemispherical, begging the question, star rotation. I do assume that I'm travelling to the bottom of a sphere when I make this observation. Therefore, the Earth's a sphere. So it's an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. If P, then Q, Q, therefore P. The fallacy part of it is that one doesn't necessarily follow the other. If I eat 10 hamburgers, I will be full. If P, 10 hamburgers, I will be full. Q. Q, I am full. Therefore, P, I just ate 10 hamburgers. Well, not necessarily. I could have eaten or drank lots of beer. That's why I'm full. So it doesn't necessarily follow that if the Earth is a sphere, then that's your P statement also begging the question. Then Q, I'll observe star rotation in the northern and southern hemisphere. So part of their statement will include their outcome. That's begging the question. So assume that you're travelling antipodal when you make this observation. Because I assume I'm travelling to the bottom of a sphere and I see lights in the sky doing whatever I describe them to do, then that confirms that I travel to the bottom of a sphere when I said I travel to the bottom of a sphere. And how do you know that they're assuming that? Because they use the word hemisphere. So it's just an affirming the consequent. If P, then Q, Q, therefore P. When the following statement, the I am full, doesn't necessarily follow with the preceding statement that you've eaten 10 hamburgers, or that in their case you've begged the question Earth's a sphere. Therefore, if I see green grass, then Earth's a sphere. It's just an affirming the consequent. Shout out to Retro Bill.
Then he said,
He
said on flat Earth, you would see all the stars at the same time.
Yeah, I did pick up on that. I was going to branch into the fact that you also had a false dichotomy as part of this shit sandwich, but I just thought I'd address the affirming the consequent rather than the double your trouble. I'm going to present it as a false dichotomy with a globe Earth versus a flat Earth model for you to pick one that's going to be the winner and which works better. Me assuming that I'm travelling antipodal, or a flat plane where you've got it mapped out with, I don't know, a dome or something. Anyway, I'm just going to shout out Retro Bill. Chocolate, that super rotation nonsense was absolutely freaking priceless. Thank you very much for the super chat, Retro Bill. It was. I was chuckling along. I also like the little hand scrawls of lol, smiley face. And then a nice thick line with a triple arrow under super rotation. AKA,
oh yeah, that's why when I read that, I had to keep it.
AKA first law of thermodynamics violation.
Yeah, I'd like to say something too about the star rotation. If there is no radius, and the black swan seems to indicate that, then whatever goes on the sky will work on a flat Earth if there's no radius. So just saying.
Yeah, you don't need to beg the question. You don't need to assume the antipodal travel bit. That's just, like you say, Paul, that's just the assuming of a radius. I assume a spherical radius, and therefore when I travel south, I am antipodal when I arrive. Sorry, why did you assume that? Well, because I automatically beg the question that I'm on a sphere. Obviously, we're on a sphere! No, that's just you telling me that you've begged the question and justifying it by getting angry. Because we all know we're on a sphere, apparently. So it's okay for them to beg the question.
Well, and then I brought that up the other day on Discord, and somebody brought up, well, why don't you model that on a flat Earth? And I was like, we ain't learned about models in this world. We're about the real world. So I just dropped it from there.
Models are pseudoscience. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you, first and foremost, to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in live. But this is where the show ends, unfortunately. Thanks for smashing the super chat. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Here yet?
Yeah.
But I'm a flat earther, and I'm very interested in what the explanation for the South Stars is. I understand there might not be an explanation. We're in a very mysterious realm where not everything of the sky can be explained.
It's light.
Just because... Pardon, sorry, Arwen?
The explanation, it's lights. You can't.
What he means by that is we don't know.
Yeah, of course. And we don't know what the sun is. We don't know what the stars is. And I completely agree. I'm totally with you. I'm not against you at all, Arwen or Nathan. I'm totally on board. It's just one of the if we look at the stars as a wheel of the sky above the flat Earth, and I'm not saying it is a wheel because we don't know what it is, but if we assume that these they're fixed, the movements, and they can be tracked over hundreds to thousands of years, I was just sort of curious because one of the very few things I've been able to find on the flat Earth that I've not been able to sort of smash myself. And I know what you're saying by its lights, and who knows how it can impose upon us the Earth or how it can present itself visually to us. But also at the same time, it's the same way I'll point Polaris out to be a big anomaly, and I'll point the wheel of the sky to be a big anomaly in the globe. That is the only sort of anomaly upon the flat Earth to looking at the sky that I see. It doesn't prove anything, I agree. And if you don't want to talk about it, I understand, because it's not a provable phenomenon of anything.
It's a celestial sphere. It's all apparent. It appears to the observer exactly like if he were standing right in the middle of a rotating sphere of lights. And that includes the sun and the moon and everything. And so, that virtual thing is spherical. It is, although it'll never be visible below your feet, below the horizon, because that's impossible. So technically, it's a demisphere. But yeah, it's a sphere, and it seems to rotate around a virtual axis. But nothing about it is in any literal position anyway. It's all just angular relations with a very specific relation to the location on the Earth.
I agree with that, because we don't understand. Sorry, carry on, Owen.
I was finished.
Here,
I understand that. Sorry, Karen, you go.
Yeah, Jaguar, see, you notice that dude you were talking to, I have him muted. And that guy is a real toxic globalist. He will run anytime there's a live stream. And the problem is that guy kept getting the mute button. And like yesterday, all the flat earthers were muted, and he just talked crap about flat earthers for a solid 5 minutes. And that's the issue.
What? I understand that. I totally understand that. And I'm not necessarily interested in with you. I understand that many globes are toxic and have a lot of experience in this.
Please bring context to the story. You guys changed the story in mid-form. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, basically, right before you guys dropped down here, we were talking about an event that happened yesterday where all the flat earthers are muted. then the Jaguar had asked a question about the poles.
Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. What do you mean?
I was
All
trying
the flat hang on. All the flat earthers on what podcast or Discord, what flat earthers were muted?
24/7.
Yeah, no, here. It was here that happened.
Here?
Yeah.
Wow, that's not good.
So on this Discord channel, all the flat earthers were muted. Now go on.
Okay, so then the guy who did it, this Poppy Airpot or Puppy Lover, whatever, he came in here and started talking crap right over me so he could answer Jaguar's question about the stars and basically just talking crap about flat Earth. Then at some point, finally, I just mute my mic and let him and Jaguar talk. Then as soon as Nathan drops down, he drops down another channel because it's like sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Wait. Puppy Lover is a mod in this Discord?
Yeah, how does he able to mute people?
What?
Hidden
Well, he should put a picture up in Discord of the Black Swan with the gas towers, with the gas stations being lower than the other. And I said it's perspective, and he said it's clearly not.
No.
So obviously, he doesn't really know what
Chocolate's
he's talking
question.
about.
Chocolate's question is not perspective. It's how did Puppy Lover become a mod?
We all know the answers to that one if you think carefully. The reason why Puppy Lover is a mod is because Righteous has managed to wangle it, because Righteous cozies up to the dickheads. The reason why I left that Discord server.
Well,
just so you know, I just jumped back on. I had a phone call. Puppy's no longer a mod.
But sorry,
Thank you.
In answer to my original question, I know Arwen smashed a lot of it with the fact they didn't prove anything. Would you boys sort of admit that it's a bit of an anomaly which absolutely does not prove the globe or indicate the globe or debunk flat Earth in any way, but it's one of the anomalies that we see from the skies to the land, which is worth investigation of? Would you say? I know we can't go there to investigate it.
Yeah,
but it's,
I think if we're to trust any of the history, which I don't, people have been trying to do that for thousands of years and just assigning their own little just so stories, which periodically change people's paradigms throughout the documented history. So yeah, they're absolutely fascinating, their lights in the sky. I totally agree with you. Should we look at them more? Yeah. Potentially worship some of them? Maybe. No, maybe too far.
I disagree. I worship them, brother. Not many things that present itself in this reality being that bright and that majestic without being divine, I would say.
Yeah, you show me a shiny yellow thing in the sky and I just want to know how to worship it. That's all I need to know.
Go on. Well, obviously, we're all bathed in its brilliance and we're all fed by it and we're all dependent upon it, which I think is, this is a massive assumption. I'm not stripping it's a fact, but if you were to worship something that was vital to your life source would be a good thing to, if you believe in the power of worship and the power of prayer.
They do. They bow to the sun. The Earth is tilted towards the sun in its heliocentric orbit around the sun.
I see what you're saying. Sorry, I misunderstood. Sorry, Nathan. Yeah, I get what you're saying now, bro. Yeah, no, obviously the way I'm talking about worship is very different to that. I am a flat earther. I've been on you boys for episode 600 or something like that. I'm only 26 now, sort of thing. But yeah, I've been tracking you guys for a while. And you've all totally convinced me.
Okay. Great.
Let the facts convince you, not the people.
Thanks for being here.
Worth doing lots of shows.
Thank you. I just said
somewhere between 600 and 900. You're like, okay, only took 300 shows.
I think that he demolished. Yeah, well, I'd heard about it. I met Wakey in South Spain. I did, and he did me about 4 days. He did. So I spent 4 intensive days of Wakey, and I was sure it was flat by the end of it. Then, but I had to go down in all the deep science of it. When you debunking all the experiments and hearing both sides and all the rest of it. Yeah, I'd say it took me about a year. Yeah, about a year, maybe 300 episodes, about an episode per day, give or take, of becoming not sure on it, but just certain on it.
No, that pleases me greatly.
Oh, those are powerful episodes.
Sometimes it seems repetitive, and people are like, "Oh, you're covering the housekeeping every day." It's like, well, yeah, it is, but by the same token, that's how information is disseminated. Being repetitive is no bad thing, and there's going to be people like yourself that tune in daily for a year, and by the end of it go, yeah, there's an untenable model and a reification of this idea that we've got sky vacuums and balls floating around in them. It's preposterous, but it might take 300 shows. Fair enough, great.
Exactly. Well, I started off on fake space. So what I was looking at was how space had been fake. Because obviously it's not a scientific experiment or a debunking of a so-called scientific experiment. It's just a visual like that doesn't make fucking sense to me. Sorry, that doesn't make sense to me. And I had to go deep into the science for a while. You know what it's like when you're in the globe for a long time. Hey, boys.
Can I ask you a question? What's your name?
Go for it. 10th. Go for it. Adam,
what's your name?
Jaguar.
He's breaking up. Jaguar.
I'm a waking Jaguar. I'm called Adam, yeah? But like you can call me whatever you want, hey.
No problem, Jaguar. Listen, this is great. You did the due diligence. You tested everything the best you could test it. You came up with where you are now in your position about the Earth. But let me ask you a question, going back to maybe further back. Through your senses, was there any sign ever that you ever thought, without someone putting it into your head, that the Earth was a spinning globe and all the stuff that goes with the globe reification model? Or was it that through your senses you felt that the Earth was obviously observably motionless and a flat plane?
I would say that through my senses, it was obviously observably and measurably flat, like Nathan would say, but I was definitely in a state of cognitive dissonance. And I would say this channel was broken my cognitive dissonance over time about the globe model. I would stipulate there's deeper levels of cognitive dissonance to have than just the shape of the Earth. And I'm still trying to find out what those are and break them.
So when before someone started indoctrinating you, whenever that was, and it's different for all of us, you knew that water seeks its own level. You knew that you didn't feel any rotation of the Earth. You knew all these things through your senses, right?
Yeah, of course. I would just say that the connections of the brain and the mind hadn't fully comprehended what the information meant to my tangible reality around me.
Right. Radio check confirmed.
Cautiously. Thank you.
You want to jump in?
No, I don't.
I thought you had a question for him or something. Yeah, so back to you, Jaguar. So until someone put it in your head, you never thought anything resembled what the globe of believers are saying.
Well, no, I would say that I was tricked and that I was duped. And when I first looked into flat Earth, there was I don't stipulate everything he says as fact, but Michael Tellinger was a truther that I used to follow. Then he went flat, and he said it was he said that there was no curvature. And I used to go out. I used to do a lot of flying. I used to do a lot of boating, and I saw what looked like the horizon curving. And it's taken a lot of videos. I mean, I was convinced really after the first few days of it, but I had to be really sure because it's more than just perspective, which makes it seem to curve, because of course angular size changes over distance to the optical eye. So it's just taking me a long time of going through it, to go through everything from curvature to fake space to coriolis and all the rest of it. And I've been on the flat Earth now about a year. I went flat when I was about 24. I did. It's been about a year and a half.
Let me dig down on the last statement you said about curvature on the ocean. So you're not saying that when you look at the sea from the shoreline and have nothing in your front view other than the water and the horizon. You're not saying that. You're saying that when you look, say, like an oil platform or a boat, and it was far enough to where you would have some kind of refraction, that's where you said you thought you saw curvature. It wasn't that the ocean itself was
or
curving.
sea
You just thought because the bottom.
Agreed. Well, that's what's taking me this channel to realize, isn't it? Like, if you don't have the information spelled out to you and you've been indoctrinated through schools and through parents and through friends, it's very hard to even begin to put these things together, I would say. I didn't have quite the quantum eraser moment when I just heard Matt Howland say gas pressure without a container and I just clicked on, It took me about 4 days of fake space to realize something was seriously wrong. And it's been about 300 episodes on this channel just to be beyond certainty that I'm right or that the flat earthers are right.
Yeah, I just wanted clarification that you were talking about things disappearing bottom up due to angular resolution and distance and all the effects of the optics, but not, you weren't saying, I don't know how to phrase this, because every time I've been on the ocean, I've never seen curve.
No, of course I understand that, but if you take, say, Atlantic goes very deep into sea level height, of your angular resolution going towards the horizon, the apparent position that you guys will speak about, the boat does appear to disappear from bottom up. And if you've not had that information put in front of you, and you're not hugely, you're not a genius for intellect, which I certainly don't claim to be, that could be mistaken for Earth curvature, and that's what I had to begin with. And that's what I'm saying. This channel was changed.
Well, that was their Earth curve. That was their Alberuni Earth curve. That's been debunked.
Absolutely, completely debunked. Yeah.
I've got a question for Nathan. Are you there, Nathan? I'm hoping he is. Okay, so Chocolate will remember this. Arwin will remember this. 10th, maybe not. I'm not sure. Paul, maybe. Do you guys remember Tommy from Birmingham, England? Very loud, very irate, very Brumoy. He's been in Nathan's. He was in for about maybe 6 weeks, and then he disappeared, never to be seen again. Does anybody remember Tommy?
Yes, I remember him.
From when was that? Was that the?
Oh yeah.
If you watch Spurs' last couple of uploads, Tommy from Birmingham, the boy, very loud, very shouty. He's arguing flat Earth arguments as though he's actually a flat earther. Now, I'm not saying that he's turned. I'm just saying that he's arguing it, and he's seeing the ballers turn directly against him and treat him like scum because he seems to have changed his position. Not saying he has, so I'm not saying that he's converted. Just be aware that Tommy's now arguing flat Earth arguments, and it's interesting to see how he's being treated by the ballers.
I remember him turning and then switching back before. So yeah, I wouldn't put too much stock in that guy.
Yeah, the first time he came, Nathan schooled him, and then he kind of took a step back and realized, and then he was a flat earther for a bit, and then he left and came back with all sorts of, essentially blanks to shoot back at us.
He come in throwing punches left, right, and centre, didn't he? And,
yeah, but he'll even say that himself now. He'll say that, at the time he really wasn't thinking about it. Now I'm with you, Sleeper Warrior. He's done this before, so who knows how genuine it is, but I don't know. It almost seems like it could be legit. Because he's been flat smacking for the past week. He's been arguing with ballers. Like, if it's a trick, it's a well played out one. But I don't know. There's a possibility. I feel like he might have actually seen that the globe is ridiculous.
Well, whether he is or he's not playing a game, or whether he's genuine or not, isn't really that. I mean, it's interesting, yeah. But what I find most interesting is the way he's being treated by ballers. They're being fucking horrible to him. And it's like, this is the reason why many of the ballers can't change sides, because they're going to get treated like Tommy. They're demonstrating how bigoted, narrow-minded, basically, I don't know what the best word, prejudice that they are. If you jump sides, you're going to be treated like an absolute bottom-of-the-barrel dirty dog. And that's what they're doing to him.
What are you talking about?
Tommy.
Broomy. You might know him as Broomy on 24/7.
Oh, okay, yeah. I heard him getting abused on the channel.
Guys, you've got to get it right. It's Broomy, not Broomy. Broomy.
He spells it Broomy.
But it is spelled.
Well, anyone from Birmingham is known as a Brummy.
Yeah, he was getting abused.
Brum.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, you could ask Quantum Eraser. He had actually good conversation with Quantum Eraser. Gave him props and stuff. Like, it's weird, man.
With anybody?
That's what I'm saying. It's been a weird week.
Wait a second. You said anyone from Birmingham?
Has anybody directly asked him?
Hold on a second. You said anyone from Birmingham is a Brummy?
Yeah, not from Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham, England.
Well, that's Nathan.
Yeah, Nathan's a Brummie.
Oh God,
Nathan's a Brummie.
Well, Nathan's a bit
What's up,
south,
Brummie?
but Nathan's kind of in no man's land between Birmingham and London. He's neither Cockney London nor Brummie Birmingham. But if you were to pick one over the other, it would be Nathan would be a Brummie.
And what is
I'm
that?
sure
This conversation sure jumped to a whole new level.
I need to disappear for 2
getting
seconds.
very important stuff now.
Yeah, disappear for 2 seconds to get a cup of coffee. Come back and I'm being talked about as a Brummie. Wonderful.
Yeah, Nathan,
What's up, Brummie?
everybody else has heard this. I'll just be brief. Do you remember Tommy? Have you watched any of Spurs' latest uploads?
Yeah, Tommy. Yeah.
He's arguing for flat Earth now, and he's getting treated like shit by the ballers. Have you noticed?
Oh, I didn't know he was arguing for flat Earth. I did and I didn't. Just didn't know if he was being devil's advocate or what. But it seemed to come across to me like he was arguing our positions or questioning, at the very least, the force of gravity with M. Scott Veach when I tuned in.
He was. He's been
played a
arguing
flat
about
Earth song.
chocolate system last week.
Yeah, I can attest to that. He's actually been arguing for the side of flat Earth for the past. I mean, a week ago, literally a week ago, we were 7 yelling at each other at the top of our lungs. And now he's on the side of flat Earth.
So
That's what I'm saying. It's like, what?
Chocolate. Why don't we
Yo.
call him Tommy Two-Tone for the moment until he decides which side he's
Tommy
going to go?
Two-Tone.
Don't call him names. Let's just see. I mean, just
No,
sit back and
Tommy
watch the ball
Two-Tone
streak.
is that guy, that singer who did that song.
It's an interesting one, actually. You say don't call him names. So the people who've been active protagonists on the globe side, when they either question the narrative with their own side or maybe disagree with some of the parts of the narrative which could be perceived as being a flat earther, surely we should just have the same attitude, which is almost total indifference unless they're directly interacting with us. Who cares what his beliefs are, right?
Exactly.
And by the way, I'm not calling him a name. I'm actually advancing him to a famous singer, Tommy Two-Tone.
I know, but what I'm saying is just sit back and watch how the ballers treat him, like regardless of whether he's being sincere and genuine or not.
Oh,
Look at how
I
they're
see.
treating him.
Yeah. Now I see what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely correct, Anthony. Because he was now going to be subject to the most horrific ridicule from his own perceived side, right? Yeah. That's why they won't concede. That's why
He's been talking about it for the past few days. He's like, "Wow, they're treating me like shit over there." Like, just because I'm asking questions, I'm saying things like, "I'm not sure about this, I'm not sure about that," and they're calling me names, they're insulting me. It's crazy.
Yeah,
well, this is where Dawn Treader gets caught up in it, because like Dawn's like, he kind of, I don't know what his position is now, but I've heard him kind of leaning a little bit towards flat Earth because there's bits that he's not happy with on the ball Earth side, and they fucking hate him for it. They don't like him asking questions, and he calls them all a cult.
There's been a tipping point. It was about 6 months ago, where there's a certain amount of information that's really disseminated to the globe side that have got a decent level of comprehension. That'd be the Black Swan argument and their understanding of it and their essential relinquishment of the model. Well, when that all happened, that sent a ripple out throughout their community, and that ripple is still going. And the ripple is our description of how long it'll take them as a whole to comprehend this argument, which has left them with an untenable model.
Yeah,
I think that
when it comes together, it'll be a giant black swan tsunami.
Well, yeah.
Black Swan's a hitman.
Yeah, it is. It's a globe Earth hitman.
Freaking whacked them.
Riley.
It whacked the
Yo,
globe.
Riley, I just said Tommy even went to he made a song. Okay. the same Tommy I argued with last week, we were screaming at each other at the top of our lungs. He's got a song about flat Earth. And truth.
Is that 8675309?
That used to be on the flat Earth debate.
Did he catch some of your rap inspiration?
Yes, Neil.
No, he's more
Neil.
of a UK rapper type, so it's a lot more hype than mine was a lot more laid back.
Right. I heard
But his was actually funny.
We need to get Tommy in and ask him some of the more leading questions. And see, not only does he know the arguments, but does he argue it persuasively? Because I mean, I heard him with Spurs on Under No Pressure, and I was listening to him. I'm like, holy shit, he actually sounds sincere. Nah, Tommy, it can't be sincere.
I
if
don't
you
care
have
how
been
sincere
listening
he is.
on
Listen, they told him
24/7
he had to
for the
read
past
all of
week,
Cavendish. He's like, I'm reading all this fucking shit.
Neil's just going, he has no clue. Someone's
Well,
talking.
hopefully he'll appreciate that there's no quarter given. God, I can't believe I'm using QE by the way. You know, the fact that he's turned flat earther doesn't mean he might get sympathy from other people, but in the same way as we take no prisoners when it comes to our own perceived side of flat earthers spouting out total shite, all we're concerned about isn't his sincerity, it's the accuracy of his position if he's going to fight it. Or sit down, shut up. That's the attitude. I don't care what you believe. But if you're going to come out here into a public arena and start spouting off about flat earth with globe earthers, you've got to know what you're talking about. And if you don't, sit back. Pay attention. Don't spout nonsense and make me look bad as a flat earther.
Take notes.
It's going to be interesting to see how he deals with himself in the next few weeks. Now that more people are aware that he seems to have jumped ship, it's going to be glorious if he has.
Ridicule. That's all he'll get. He'll get
Hey, can you
horrendous
guys hear me
ridicule.
okay?
Go on. Whoever that was.
Oh, he'll get more than ridicule, mate. He's turned against him. He'll be losing his job. They'll be getting him. They'll try and get him kicked out of his house if he's renting. All that kind of shit. You'll see the nasty side of them now.
I want to hear more about the song he wrote, Chocolate.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I spent like a year and a half on the fence, and I kind of flip-flopped there for a little while because I didn't understand the formological from the consequence fallacy. And you guys don't treated me like crap. You guys are always cool with me. So I just want to say, like, who's the cult? I mean, come on. It's obvious that you can't switch sides with them. They're completely dishonest.
Most of their arguments, when formulated, are actually in affirming the consequent. All of them, without exception, are begging the question.
I'll just say that they can keep most of their debaters. I'd rather most of them just stay ignorant.
Nobody.
Well, you don't want Panda to get on your side. You don't want Panda on your side. Nobody wants Jim over here.
We can't bear him now, let alone then.
I don't care either way. In the same way we've
That
had
was
to...
a pun, by the way.
Great pun. In the same way we've had to argue the toss with other flat earthers, the same would apply to anybody here. You know, talk shit, expect pain. Doesn't matter what side of the argument you're on.
Well, weren't you trying to explain that to Vacuum?
Vacuum being a glober, but I don't understand what you mean.
He was claiming that he was being persuaded to flat Earth, and then you were telling him that now you're going to get ridiculed.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Vacuum, but before the computer broke, I was telling all of them the same thing. The reason you can't concede, the reason we're going round in circles 10 times is because you know that despite the fact your argument's been taken to pieces, should you ever acknowledge that in even the slightest way, you're opening yourself up to your own side and their vitriol, which you will encounter. We know it, we've seen it. So, you know, it's a den of snakes, the globe earth side of this argument.
It was Vacuum.
Yeah, I think you... Well, no, I think, Neil, it may have been Vacuum too, but I do recall that quite well, that you addressed any and all ballers who would argue opposite of what they're doing now. They are afraid of the ridicule, so they'll stay ignorant and say stupid things just to avoid the pain and the ridicule.
Think of it this way. You can declare that an observed phenomena is a shoe and receive almost no ridicule from the globe earth side as a consequence of that. Yet if you were to say, well, I'm not entirely sure that gravity is a force. Get him! Have his job!
Yeah, it's a bit like that scene out of Monty Python where one of them says something wrong and they all turn on him and chase him. Where does he knock around chocolate? Does he knock around in gems or?
Tommy?
I think I heard him say 24/7. Is that what he said?
Yeah, that'd
Sorry,
be correct.
I was working. Yeah. For the past week, he's been in 24/7 in the arena. So it's like he's been hanging out there.
Has anybody got a link for that arena?
A what?
A link for that Discord arena thing.
You just go to their website and hit the arrow down for different channels.
Are you not in 24/7?
It's under Miggy, Miggy.
I don't think so.
You're not in the server itself?
No, I left a load of the servers recently. Flat Earth Reality is the only one I'm in, and I never see anyone chatting in there anymore.
Nobody ever goes in there. You got to come in 24/7, bro.
And with that, I think I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!